my dad is my inspiration. I was the kid who grew up saying I want to be just like my dad. And of course, the one thing he never wanted me to be was a wrestler.
That seems to be a very common thing of some of the interviews I do with a lot of the wrestlers that wrestled during the 70s and the golden era of the 80s, that their parents did not want them to be wrestlers, but they wound up being wrestlers anyway.
Well, you know what it is? It's not the wrestling itself is, I love entertaining the people. It's the lifestyle that comes along with it that's so hard. That's what most people don't understand. I mean, it's like, a lot of people, they look at they look at movie stars and they go, "Oh my gosh, what a glamorous life." Those people, I mean, I tell you, one of the hardest working men in Hollywood is The Rock.
Right.
And I mean, this guy, I mean, he's probably got to be on a movie set every morning, like by 4:30. And before he does that, he has his workout.
Yeah, I've seen those.
And then he does makeup and all that stuff. And those are 15, 16-hour days every day. And so it's not so glamorous, but and all the things that come along with it. You're away from your fans. Great, yeah. You're in this great big building and people are screaming. They're either cheering you or booing you, but it doesn't matter. I mean, that's the story. And then when the show's over, you go back to an empty hotel room in a town where you don't really know anybody, and your family, if you have one, is whether they're 10 miles away or 10,000 miles away, they're not with you.
Right.
And that hotel room becomes a very empty place, and that's how it starts. You go down to the bar, you have a beer, and then it just keeps right on rolling. Been there and done that. Wrote a book about it.
Yeah, a lot have during your generation have wrote books about the lifestyle. I've read a couple of them, including Ric Flair's "To Be a Man," or "To Be the Man," and some interesting things you read and you learn that as a someone like me on the outside, watching you guys makes me have a whole newfound respect for you guys, because being away from your family, some guys got into the party lifestyle, other guys kind of got into depression because they weren't around their family, and it's a mental twist for you guys not to be on the road so much.
Yeah, it's a lot harder life than most people realize. And
it was worse then. I mean, I would think compared to now.
Yeah.
So now I think they're a little bit more, not to say they're pampered, but it's a different generation, more technology. There was no texting and social media back then.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and there's not, and again today, well, I'd say they say they work a 4-day work week, but even if they're not wrestling, there's other, especially if you're a top talent, there's other things you're going to be doing for the company, to promote it. And but again, you know that getting in, and you have a, just like I had a different perspective. I mean, I looked at my dad, and he's my hero. I want to be like him. My kid said the same thing until he got married and had a kid, and realized that the amount of time that he was going to have to devote to the wrestling business wasn't fair to his family. And a lot of people don't know that. But some people think that Ted got released. He didn't get released. They tried to re-sign him. He said, "Thank you, I appreciate everything, but I'm going to go do something else."
And you got to respect him for that. He put family. Yeah. He put family ultimately first.
Right.
So all right. So let me ask you. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and whatever pops into your head, we call this the speed round. Whatever pops into your head first. Your toughest opponent?
Myself.
Okay.
Yeah, dealing with myself. I mean, it's all about all about choices, and I made a lot of good choices when I was young because of the inspiration my dad was. And from about the age of 18 till I was 38, life became all about me. I got the scholarship, went to college, got into wrestling, became a star, and started living the life. Wine, women, and song, the whole 9 yards. One failed marriage. And then a wonderful wife comes into my life, 2 more children, and I'm abusing that because of fame. And when I hit the wall and had to take the hard look in the mirror and go, "Look, you idiot! You've put at risk the most valuable things in your life to stroke your ego." and I had to confess a lot of stuff to my wife, and again, it's all in the book, and it's all in the documentary that we've been working on forever, that I hopefully will be coming out soon.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, I made the right choice. I turned back to the values of my youth, to the God of my youth. I'm a very strong Christian, not only a strong Christian, but a minister today. Mm-hmm. And that's what I spend most of my time doing. So my toughest opponent was me. But other than that, what is a tough opponent in professional wrestling? I mean, because it's sports entertainment. A tough opponent would be somebody that you find very difficult to have a match with.
Right.
And for me, that would probably would have to have been Virgil.
It wasn't exactly.
And that's all I'll say.
It wasn't exactly trained, so. But all right, who was somebody that you felt like it was like you would, no matter what, it was like magic in the ring working with him?
Wow. Well, one of those guys would definitely be Jake Roberts.
Okay.
Jake the Snake. Jake and I always had great ring chemistry. Another one, Bret Hart. I mean, I remember the first time that Bret and I ever wrestled, and I even remember where. And that's really unusual. We were in Odessa, Texas, and it was just one of those things. They back then, this was they had Wrestling Challenge and Superstars, and they had they did the matches for what they called Coliseum Home Video.
Right.
And this was one of those matches. And so they just told us to go 20 minutes Broadway, meaning, nobody wins. It's a draw. They just kind of, they said, in the match, kind of like what we call the Mexican standoff, where you're looking at each other and you're backing away, and, you got you're about to draw your gun, but you kind of look at each other and go, there'll be another time. But we had this 20-minute match, and when we got through and we walked in the back, Pat Patterson, looked at both of us and said, "Oh my gosh, what a tremendous match! You guys have been working a lot together." And we looked at each other and went, "That's the first time we ever touched."
Wow!
And it's just that we both came from the same psychology of business. We both were raised in that, under people that came up the generation before us, and we learned how to work. And anyway. Bret was another one of those guys that I had good chemistry with.
Okay. Hall of Fame, yes or no? Mike Rotunda.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree. Absolutely, I agree. I don't understand it. I still don't. Well, you answered the toughest opponent as far as not being able to work well, so you stole one of my questions there. Should the famous and infamous laugh of the $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase be inducted into the Hall of Fame on its own account?
Gosh, no. Are you kidding me? I don't know. Maybe, of course, I can't do that either, because I'm known for the laugh, and the laugh goes along with the character of the $1 Million Man. So the character of the $1 Million Man is the intellectual property of the WWE. So I can't even trademark the laugh.
No,
I can't even do what Michael Buffer did.
Trademark his own voice. Can't even do it.
Right.
Man, the times have changed.
But I tell people, because I get that request all the time, even some of the autograph signings, what have you. They go, "Can you laugh for us? Can you laugh for us?" By the end of the day, I can't even talk because everybody wants me to laugh. And I go, I had a almost 20-year wrestling career, and what am I remembered for?
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, it's because that was also the first thing that hit before your music hit, and that was like instantaneous booing. So I don't even know if anybody even knows you had music. I think they heard the laugh and the booing started, and that was it. So I mean, it's just now. When you guys had some long days, really long days, and by the time you even got, to the top of the ramp, you're probably exhausted and could use a nap, but you got to push forward because you had a match. What kind of adrenaline rush was it when, like, your music hit and you were about to walk through? Back then, it was the Titantron.
Well, it depends on the match and the day. I mean, it's like. Obviously, if we're talking WrestleMania, it's huge.
Yeah.
TV. But when you're wrestling often as we do every day. I mean, it's like there's 31 days in some months, and out of those 31, we were wrestling 21.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes it's like it's just another day at the office. Let's go to work. But yeah, if it's a big special event, WrestleMania, Wembley Stadium, oh my gosh, that was a huge rush, 80,000 people. So yeah, there are special moments, for that where your adrenaline's really, really up. But I would say once you get in the ring and get going, always, I mean, you have to, you got to turn it on and go.
Right.
Even when you don't feel like it. I have literally, it's kind of like that old saying, the show must go on.
Mm-hmm.
I can remember times, throughout my career where, I had the flu, and I'm in the bathroom, I'm in the bathroom of the dressing room, and I don't come out until it's time for my match. I go straight to the ring and try to get through the match without, puking on somebody, and then I go straight back to that bathroom. We've had times like that too, so it's the show must go on.
Right.
And when you're injured,
Absolutely.
there's times when you're injured, there's some injuries that you can work around, and obviously there's some you can't, but you do what you got to do.
Now, do you regret the jump to WCW?
In a way I do, and here's the understanding of it. When I left WWE, which was still WWF at the time,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't leave because I was unhappy with the company. I had left at the end of '93, SummerSlam '93. I went back to work for Japan. I needed to get away, and the reason I needed to get away was because, like I said, I just had a life change. I just, in March of '92 is when the bottom fell out, and I had to make this huge confession to my wife, and I went back to a set of values that I was raised on, and what I realized by '93 is, look, if I don't get myself out of this environment, it's going to suck me back in. I mean, but the bottom line is, we all make choices, and it's kind of like, if you're going to quit drinking, get out of the bar. Well, I was in a business that at the time we were like rock stars. It was still the next town, the next show, the next party. All the guys, hey, let's go to the bar type. And it's like, so if I don't get out of here, it'll suck me back in.
Right.
And so that's why I initially left. But then Vince brought me back. After WrestleMania 10 was in New York, and I made a cameo appearance. And then we had talked about, I had also just done color commentary with him, I think, for Royal Rumble, and so that created a new job. I was now a commentator and a manager,
Right.
and that was going along fine. Well, then Vince decided to put me back on the road. He put me back on the road with Sid, and then Stone Cold. I was on the road with Stone Cold for a while,
Right.
but here's the deal. It's kind of like the rub, because of my stature and everybody hated me. Like, you give the rub to the guy that helps elevate them,
Mm-hmm.
and I get that. And my way of thinking was, look, Vince is running a business. He's not concerned about my personal problems, and it's like being back on the road was danger for me. I didn't want to be on the road because, again, for the same reason. So, I sent the company, our contracts would just renew back then if you didn't send them a written letter within 90 days. And so I sent the letter. I should have had the conversation with Vince, and he and I, since that time, obviously have had that conversation. He told me, you should have come and talked to me. But, I basically left because I felt like, he wants me back on the road. I don't want to be on the road anymore.
Right.
And that was really my decision to go to WCW. And I had a 3-year guaranteed contract. Had a great contract, but the company absolutely was horrible. I mean, it was the most poorly run organization I ever worked for in my life.
And
Horrible.
Somehow it almost worked.
Somehow it almost worked. Yeah, I mean, it's
I don't get
crazy. But, well, here's the thing. All the stars